Hello and welcome back to Protoss vs. Zerg Week. This is Gum Jabbar. And in this game we're going to look at a really awesome style of PvZ that I've been doing lately. Pretty much every game on a ladder, and it's really, really fun and really versatile. So, this is Shakura's Plateau. This map is terrific for Protoss for pretty obvious reasons that we'll see. Yeah, so of course we're going to Forge Expand. And this was a custom with my friend LOL Craft, who is a very good Zerg in Diamond. And he played pretty well this game. And I mean, most of the time, we're about 50-50, but I think more often than not, lately, he's been beating me. So that should give you an idea of his skill level relative to mine. And yeah, we're going to take a look at this game, and we're going to see what we can learn from it. It's really cool. Now, I won't get into the specifics of the build order, because I just kind of wing it, to be honest. I can give you some general ideas. Obviously, we're just going through the Forge Expand first. I always make a Forge first, Nexus first. A little risky. I'm not entirely confident in playing Nexus first, so I just always make a Forge first. And it's not really... I mean, I don't really see the... why it doesn't set me that far behind, so I can live with it. Meanwhile, I get in here and scout the pool. No gas. And I'm just going to put down a pylon. And, yeah, if it were Idra playing, he would probably just all in right now because he's too far behind, so he claims. But, you know, instead we're going to go ahead and put down our Nexus. There it goes, Nexus. Zerg is going to go ahead and kill the pylon. He's actually doing an 11 hatch 18, or 11 pool 18 hatch, so this doesn't set him behind that much in terms of his game plan. And he's doing kind of a cute thing, gas stealing, but I don't really like this against Forge Expand. I mean, I have these 2 gas geysers here, and you don't need 4 gas geysers until you have the capability to kill this off anyway. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan. Cannon before gateway, and then another gateway to seal it off, but you'll cancel this and make a cyber core. Also, what I've been doing lately, and I'm checking to make sure this is tight. Sometimes it's deceiving and it isn't. What I also like to do is put down a second cannon every time. Doesn't matter what he's doing, I just like to have 2 cannons at my front. Pretty much every time I Forge Expand. And there's the second cannon. If you make 1 cannon and he does an all-in that you didn't scout properly, you can just die. With 2, at least, you can hold him off long enough so you can make more. So I do like that. And now I'm just getting a gas in my main, a gas in my natural, and just not bothering with this one yet. Don't really care. And his hatchery is not even finished yet. So that's pretty good. Good situation to be in. Meanwhile, Zerg is just droning up. Only has a few lings out. And as I pointed out in my last video, when you're doing this kind of build, Zerg typically is allowed to drone up without fear of attack for a while. He gets a very fast third most of the time, which he is going to do. And, you know, we're trying to sort of negate that weakness by going for a huge timing attack. And, it doesn't matter if Zerg scouts it or not. If Zerg doesn't scout it and he's, droning up to 80, then we will catch him with very few units and we will do a ton of damage. Very likely kill the 3rd base, possibly just win the game. If he does scout it, he has to make a bunch of units and get a bunch of upgrades to deal with it. it's really hard for him to go unupgraded roaches, for example, or to go, you know, just massive Ling or something when we have High-Templar. And we are going to go High-Templar. Spoiler alert. So, he needs to invest in defending this attack, and that is going to make us pretty much economically even, just by forcing him to do that. So that's where we're at, and this is everything we've covered previously. At this point, I've got my Twilight Council. I'm getting Blink. I'm going to go for +1. I would like to get this started earlier in the future, so that's something I would tweak about my build. A bit supply blocked. Anyway, not too big of an issue. We look at the worker count. Of course, LOL Craft is a bit ahead, no doubt. And now he's getting that lair, has the Roach Warren up, and he's going to start working. If we look at what he sees, he has seen the Twilight Council, and he is seeing a bunch of gateways go down. I'm making the Templar Archives out of range of his vision. If he just suspects this is pure blink, that's excellent for me. I don't care. Hopefully he'll like rush to Infester, which I can just feed back, and then I'll totally win. Or at least have a big advantage. Otherwise, he'll probably go very Ling heavy, you know, Ling Roach, or he'll go Hydras. That's pretty common. And once again, Templar are just amazing against both of those. So I'm hoping that he scouts the 6-gate Blink, but not the Templar Archives. That's a great situation to be in. But either way, it doesn't really matter. If he sees the Templar Archives, there's not a whole lot he can actually do. And we do see Zerg researching Burrow, Glial Reconstitution, Pneumatized Carapace, and the Infestation Pit. And if we just look at the drone count right now, we're actually even. I mean, he has 6 in production, so we're even. And he's spending all of his money great. He is a little ahead in supply, but roaches will do that. Not a big deal. And in order to get this army up with Burrow and speed, which you need, like if you don't have that, then I'm going to do, you know, tons better against this army than if he didn't have Burrow and speed. In order to get all that and get all these units out in time for the push, which should hit right about now if I were going Blink, it will actually hit a few minutes later because of the storm. But if this were a Blink push, then, you know, he's doing everything right. This is exactly what Zerg does, and we are even in economy. So this is just a really important thing to note. He's going to get a little annoying and try and harass us. You know, it looks like he's being kind of aggressive, so I'm putting down another cannon. Not a huge deal. And yeah, it would be suicide for him to attack up this ramp. So I do have to remake the Cybercore. Kind of annoying. This is about when I want to be building my Stalker count. I already have a couple High-Templar, but you can actually just throw some minerals into Zealots and you're fine, because you know, want some gas buildup to spend on High-Templar anyway. You're going to have more Zealots in your composition. And at this point, I have Storm finished. I have some Storms, as we will see just a second. And bam. Easy victory here. Now, notice I'm not even force fielding. My hotkey setup, I'm really terrible with hotkeys, so I have everything on one hotkey right now. And I just don't bother with force fielding, which is really terrible. I should really get better at that. But force fielding the roaches and letting Zealots attack them is actually super good, because Zealots beat roaches one-on-one. Without being kited, Zealots beat roaches, and they're, you know, cheaper. So actually force fielding behind the roaches and letting Zealots attack is really good. And he'll do a little bit of a, you know, Ling attack, but he's not going to do any damage. So we can see that it's just really hard for Zerg to engage our army. I mean, look at how damaging Storm is. So after cleaning up the Lings, we're just going to move out. This third base, you have to take it here. If you take it anywhere else, it's really vulnerable. This is excellent position. Look at this tiny choke. You can clog that up with a gateway or something. I choose not to, but that's something you can do. And it's almost impossible for Zerg to assault that. Meanwhile, I'm going to see if I can kill this Overlord. Look at the income. We're, again, very even. Zerg doesn't really have drones. He's building up this roach force and getting tunneling claws. He's just trying to deal with this army that I have. Without tunneling claws, it's going to be tough. And it doesn't really matter how many roaches he gets. I have Blink. I've got Templar. The Zealots aren't terrible. And he has to engage my army in order to take out one of my bases. So here we go, another engagement. Storm the roaches, storm again. Big storms everywhere. And all of his roaches are in the orange. He has to retreat here. And I can blink in and follow him, get some kills. This is something that I've noticed. When you're doing this army, every time you engage, Zerg has to retreat. He just has to. Because of those storms, he has to run away. You're doing extra damage there. It's really hard for Zerg to kill you, and you can be very aggressive. You can see he's up to 64 drones. But if he were caught droning a little too much, then I could just run in and kill him. Now, once we have 3 bases, we're making that robotics facility. Because as good as Storm is, and Blink Stalkers, Burrow really helps heal, and Burrow movement makes them basically invulnerable to storms. They won't take any real damage. So we do want to transition into a lot of Immortals too. And here we go, another engagement. His roaches are so bunched up. Storm, storm. And he has to run away, and I'm going to walk right through the storm. Blink forward, try and get some more kills. And he's going to burrow. My observer is not quite out yet. So this is right about the time when I have to back off. You can see, once he does have burrow movement and a decent number of roaches, it's hard for me to continue engaging. But, of course, once the observer's out, and here it is, we go right into Immortals. We've got detection. Very, very hard for Zerg to do anything after this. And look at all these Templar with lots of energy, tons of storms. Most Zergs are also going to be building infestors here. They want to stop me from blinking. That's great. I just feedback them. It's not an issue at all. And we'll look at more games in which that happens. So he has a huge concave here, actually. And once again, I just sort of walk right through the storms because I can do that with Stalkers, I guess. And moving forward, just doing a ton of damage. And now, he's doing the smart thing. Hey, I've got Lings. Those are good against Stalkers, right? Well, they are. But they're pretty bad against Psystorm. And, you know, my computer's lagging because of so much amazing stormage going down. And I just blink back. I have a lot of Zealots in this composition, in fact, in this army. And I just keep storming. Losing Templar I don't need to be losing. I mean, my micro is really not that great here, I gotta admit. But just look at how well that did. All I had to do was storm a shit ton, and he just dies. So he just keeps making roaches. And you might think, well, you know, why is he still making roaches? What's up with that? It's clearly not really working. Well, what else is he going to make? Hydras just die to storms even faster. Lings are pretty terrible. I mean, Mass and Fester, I could just feedback it all, and they're totally worthless. The only thing I have personally found that deals okay with it is a ton of Lings and Banelings. But recently I've seen Liquid Tyler, whenever he scouts Ling Baneling, he just morphs all of his High-Templar into Archons, gets a lot of more Zealots, and goes for a big timing attack. And you put the Archons up front, target fire the Banelings, and it's very, very hard for Zerg to do any damage to that. And now we're just going to go ahead and go for the kill. I have way too many units. I'm getting my 4th base. Blinking back everything that's hurt. and Zerg has to GG. So, with this style, we're going for +2 attack, blink, and storm off 2 base. Seems a bit all-in-ish, but as you can see, it's just not. As soon as we have a good number of storms and blink and a few blink stalkers, we can move down and take our third. We see that Zerg actually had a ton of upgrades, a big army. He was prepared to deal with a 2-base blink push, and we could still take our third very easily. He couldn't engage our Psystorm army with blink stalkers. And that was even with my terrible micro. With better micro, we could have done even better against his army. So at this point, we just continue to be aggressive. It's very hard for Zerg to drone. And Zerg kind of has to keep throwing roaches at us and upgrading the roaches. He was preparing for a Broodlord, excuse me, a Broodlord switch, which is a fine move. As long as you have a good enough army with the Broodlords, it's pretty tough to blink under them. And what we're going to do with that is when we have our 4th base, or when we scout a Greater Spire, which he hasn't started quite yet. When we do scout that, we're going to start making stargates, maybe 2 of them, and just switch over to Void Raiders or Carriers. And that's a very common switch, and that's something that you should be aware of. So once we hit 3 base, we're adding that Robo Bay. We're doing this so that we can match his burrow and burrow movement timing. Typically just burrow movement. And because once he has burrow move, it becomes harder to fight him. He can actually, burrow underneath the Templar and come up and snipe them all. Or he can just burrow whenever he gets stormed, and he'll negate all that damage. So we need that Observer out, and we start making Immortals, because obviously those are terrific against roaches. And we can see that against Blink Stalkers and Immortals, roaches are just terrible. And when you add High-Templar into the mix, everything else he can make is terrible. And this lets us be aggressive. We get map control, which is rare against Zerg in the old style of the big Colossus Deathball. But we get map control pretty early. As soon as Blink and Storm finish, we can move around the map. We can just engage his army and he has to retreat. We get a lot of expansions, pretty much uncontested. We're going a very gateway-heavy style. We can warp in a lot. We can defend easier. And this is actually very good against Muta opening, too. If he decides to go Muta against a Forge Expand, which in my opinion is terrible, by the way, because a lot of Forge Expands follow up with Stargate. But even if he went Muta, we're opening Blink High-Templar against Muta. That's basically perfect. So it just puts us in a fantastic position. And, a Hydra push, a 2-base Hydra push, we can deal with that. It's a really phenomenal and versatile style of play. And it's a lot of fun. So I really hope you guys try it out. I'll be sharing more games of this style in different situations in the next few days. So definitely stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from this game, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.